What's up, agents, and welcome back to another division video where we're going to go in deep with the Pakhan. It's going to be a long one. It's going to be stats heavy. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Let's get straight into it. First of all, big shout out to IKEA who helped me out on my live stream with a lot of these stats. He's amazing. Go and check him out. I'll link his channels down below in the description. With all that said though, let's get straight into it. So the Pakhan, let's take a look at it. It's an interesting one because it comes with some good mods because they changed them. It comes with weapon damage, 20 rounds, 10 reload speed and 15 crit chance. Pretty good set of mods. The Pakhan itself suffers from reload, so 10% reload speed is always going to help. 15 crit chance, we can never say no to. We love a bit of crit chance in our builds, meaning we can put more crit damage in. An extra 15% weapon damage, winner winner, chicken dinner. So a good set of mods. Now I'm going to compare it to the Pestilence. I'm going to talk about whether you should be running damage to armor, rate of fire or crit chance on your Pakhan, and then we're going to throw in the MG5 at the end and just kind of see if we should be running it. So let's talk about why first of all and what it is we're actually doing here. So the reason why the Pesty is so good is that not only did the gun variant get a decent buff, you can do damage to enemies when you're not reloading, when you're not shooting, or when they're in cover, and it spreads. And so you might not even have a line of sight on an enemy, and you'll do a significant chunk of damage. And I've got all that kind of worked out in my spreadsheet, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. But then there's an issue with the Pakhan. The fact that it comes with that 15% critical hit chance depends on what build you are going to run into what you should roll on the bottom slot. You can see here I've got rate of fire. So if you look at my build here, it's a complete high-end build. I like this because it does more damage than the Striker's build. It's a little bit riskier, but I like to go out all out in damage. Now you can pump a little bit of extra damage with the Pestilence from this build. If we changed out the Coyote's mask to an Imminence Armament, one of the new pieces, or we could pump it out to a Walker Harris, and that'll give us more tick damage. But the idea with me is I like to shoot the gun as well. I like to buff the team as well. So the Coyote's mask, for what it does, just gives me that little bit extra and just makes it more worth what it is that I am running. If I didn't want to do that, I would just slap the LMG on my Strikers build and be happy. And I kind of just want to have 2 LMG builds. That's kind of enough for me. So that's my reasoning behind how we look at things. Now the problem with the high-end build that does the most damage is that we can't run crit chance on the Pakhan. Otherwise, we will overcap significantly. We just don't have the room to take it down. There's no point running headshot damage. There's no real point running weapon handling. We're just taking away from damage where we could just have more damage. So that leaves us with DTA and that leaves us with rate of fire. So both of them are going to get a run through on the spreadsheet to see how they turn out, to see which one that we should be running. Now, if you're running Strikers, you're going to get 2 options. You're going to be able to run rate of fire and you're going to be able to run crit chance. And that's really going to be up to you. Do you run the high-end build? If the answer is yes, roll rate of fire. If you don't ever run the high-end build, roll critical hit chance and know you're getting the best bang for your buck. So that's some of the things that you can consider. Unless you really want to be re-rolling a Pakhan over and over and over, or farming 2 and leveling them both up, I just don't think the gun's worth that amount of effort. But you'll see that in just a moment. And then we've got the MG5, which we're going to look at as well. One of the best in slot LMGs. We'll look at the -1 mod version. It's better than the other one. And we'll talk about what we're going to run on them as well. So we've talked enough. Let's take a look at some stats. Alright, stat time. So you can see here we've got the Pesty, we've got the Pakhan with DTA rolled, we've got the Pakhan with rate of fire rolled, and we've got the MG5 with killer. The numbers already are probably jumping out at you because you're probably just looking at who wins at the end. But let's first of all talk about the Pesty. So the Pesty is the one at the top. That was one that was a kind of benchmark. It's a very good LMG. It does a lot of damage, but it also gets 1.7 mil tick damage, which is 5 times the body non-crit shot that we get when it's at max stats, right? We're assuming everything is max here. Expertise is max, stats, unstoppable force is maxed. We're assuming everything is maxed. And the reason we do that is there's too many variants in between. Now, the result is going to be the same whether you're expertise level 10, level 5, level 25, or level 30. There'll be some give or take in some numbers because some actually don't have diminishing returns. Some get better the greater the number of weapon damage that you have. But the end result, give or take, is always going to be the same because you're going to end up upgrading to that point at some point in the future anyway. And I would hate for you to waste all them exotic components, get to level 30 and think, damn, I should not have bothered doing that. So with all that said, let's just carry on talking. So you can see that the Pestilence as a gun itself doesn't beat out the Pakhan with rate of fire or DTA, but when it's got its tick damage, it probably does. And that's hard to tell, we have to say, probably, because we know we're going to be doing that damage while it's reloading. We know we're going to be doing that damage while they're in and out of cover. The gun reloads a bit faster, it's a bit nicer to use. So the Pesty generally is probably just going to win out over the Pakhan. So really, it's just your experience then of which gun you like to use. Do you like using the Pakhan? Use the Pakhan. Do you like using the Pesty? Use the Pesty. Which one do you feel like run your clear content with better? Use that gun. It's very, very close. You can see the it's 105 to 106% between it all. 5%. But that gap will close significantly, if not more, with the Pesty. I'm going to say, to me, that feels like the Pesty will always win out because of usability and that extra tick damage that it's always going to be doing. So let's move on to the DTA and the rate of fire section of the Pakhan. So as you can see here, there is nothing between them. There is 0.5% between the DTA and the rate of fire version. But why would you run the rate of fire version over the DTA version? Well, quite simply, not everything in the game has armor, where everything will be affected by rate of fire, which is why critical hit chance is usually the go-to on LMGs, because you'll get the most bang from your butt because you can put more critical hit damage into the rest of the build. And it's always active. Everything can be crit pretty much in the game. So that's why rate of fire is so important here, and that's why the stat you should be looking at for this is going to be rate of fire. Now, you've got a choice to make. Do you roll crit chance because you're running strikers? Do you roll rate of fire because you swap between builds? So that is what you're going to think about. My advice really would be to roll rate of fire. You're not going to miss out on the couple of percent between critical hit chance and rate of fire between swapping builds around, unless you've got an excessive amount of exotic components, and I know some of you have, and you want to re-roll it every time you use it and then optimize it. I'm sure nobody does. The safe bet is probably going to be to roll rate of fire on your Pakhan. And as you can see here, the stats align with what I'm saying. But then we've got the MG5. That at the moment, the MG5 on this sheet is showing the MG5 with Killer. So as you can see here, that does, well, to heads, around 15% more than the Pesty. Give or take the tick damage again. But then also, it's doing 10% more than the Pakhan with DTA or rate of fire. 10% is a lot of damage, and when you consider that there's no real talent on the Pakhan, that extended mag isn't really going to do you any favors with such a long reload speed. So really, the MG5 with Killer is the killer for the Pakhan. It's just better. There's just no need to run the Pakhan at all, unless you really want to, which is pretty crazy. Overall, on average, it's giving us a 19% damage boost over the Pesty. It's giving us around a 15% damage boost over the Pakhan with anything rolled on it, which is crazy. And when you think that the Alpha Bridge mask is going to come out at a later point, running an MG5 with Killer and Measured could actually be insane, because Measured is the other stat that we're going to take a look at. So we've looked at the Pakhan, we've looked at the Pesty. Let's take a look at this MG5. This is the variant that you want, the one that has one less mod slot. The other one is still very good, but this is the one that you want to get. Unfortunately, you can't craft it. You've got to farm them in Countdown and get lucky, and you want it with critical hit chance on the bottom. And then you can roll Killer or Measured or whatever talent you want to roll on it at this point. If you like Fast Hands, you could roll Fast Hands, and you get more options when the Alpha Bridge mask comes out later on in the season. So we already know now that from looking at the spreadsheet here that the Pakhan does less damage and the Pesty does less damage. So let's get rid of the Pakhan with DTA in the spreadsheet, and let's fill it in with an MG5 stats with Measured. If you're wondering what measured is, we'll scroll down. Now, measured is a little bit of an awkward talent. No, it's showing breadbasket. Right, so here we go. So as you can see, the top half of the magazine has 25% rate of fire and minus 25% weapon damage. The bottom half of the magazine has 18% minus 18% rate of fire and a total of 30% extra weapon damage. So we can do this in twofold. We could calculate what we would get with the top half stats and see if we beat out the Pesty and the rate of fire on the Pakhan, and then we can calculate the bottom half and see if we beat it out. And if both beat it out, it's a win-win. If we get another situation, then we need to think about it a little bit. So let's work that out. All right, so now you can see we've got the MG5 with measured in the second set of stats. But first of all, what I'm going to show you is the top half of the magazine has a 25% rate of fire bonus, taking it up to 1,000. But it has minus 25% damage. But as you can see, on average, it's still doing 9% more than the Pesty and around 5% more than the Pakhan. So what about the bottom half of the magazine? Let's work that out now. Okay, so now we have adjusted for that, and you can see it's really interesting. We actually come in lowest of all of them at that point. So you can see that we come in about 2.4% lower than the Pesty, but that brings us down to around 5% at that point less than the Pakhan. But in general, we actually come in over the Pakhan, the Pakhan with measured as well. So measured is obviously going to be your best if you're in a group. I would definitely say so. It has huge burst potential. That would be where I would go to. Killer is going to be your best by far. That one won out. We saw that that ran out. You know, you can see there at the bottom there. That does on average probably 10% more in general than every other build that we've done. Maybe a little bit lower than that actually, because we was at what, we was 105% with the top half of measured. So yeah, a little bit more with the measured coming in second, killer coming in first, and then the Pesty coming in third, and the Pakhan coming in at the bottom. So especially when the end of the season rolls around and we get the Alpha Bridge mask, it's just, you know, the Pakhan is fairly balanced, and it's the same story as Streamline. It's fairly balanced, but there's absolutely no need to invest into it when we've got the Pesty and when we've got the MG5. And the MG5 gives us way more options than what the Pakhan does, and way cheaper to reroll and way cheaper to just equip and to use. So that is going to be it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the deep dive. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.